right. Well, good morning, everybody, to the Rise and Grind morning show. I'm here with Derek Fields, and he's back. He's ready to roll. I think everyone's kind of out of the woods after that NFC Championship game. We're healthier. We feel better. We've got a little bit to talk about. It's February. It's February football after the Super Bowl. So there's not a whole lot going on. So we're going to try to bring you the best we can daily and keep it sprinting forward in the NFL conversation. So good morning, Derek. How you doing today?
Good morning, Will. I am better, man. Tough bout with COVID. Not as tough as the first time, but second week, man, I just wasn't feeling 100%. So I'm about 85, 90 right now and ready to do this thing, man.
Well, that's awesome. Well, everyone out there, just remember, if you want all of your sports in one place, please visit sportspider.com. That's sportspider.com. They are coming on as a sponsor this morning. I love the website, and they do a great job with promoting all options for football, baseball, basketball, everything, all the teams everywhere. Get it all in one space, sportspider.com. All right, so let's get it rolling, Derek. A lot of action Sunday after the Super Bowl. I think I'm going to start with this one first. Let's talk about the 49ers don't know the rules. There was some interesting conversation about this. They didn't know the overtime rules, according to a couple of players. They said it was never talked about with them. And then, of course, the media grabbed a hold of this and they said, why would you take the ball first if you know that everyone gets a chance with the ball and it's like a brand new game you keep on playing? You know, if it's a tie, it keeps going. Mm-hmm. What do you think about it? And I guess let me tell you what Kyle Shanahan said. He said, this is something we talked about with, that none of us have a ton of experience of it, but we went through all the analytics and talked with those guys, and we just thought it would be better. We just wanted the ball third. So that's interesting to me. I think that makes sense. He was probably thinking that they were going to sprint down the field, score, and then they would have to come back and score the third time. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this and being prepared? And do you think Dan Campbell would have had these guys prepared?
I like that, Will. That made me chuckle today. You know what it is? I do. I feel like Dan Campbell would have had him ready because to the outside world, you think he's a meathead, but he's not. He's a very smart. You hear from Brad Holmes, you hear from everybody that he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for, but he does that on purpose too. He doesn't mind that. But as far as I don't know how you're in the biggest game of probably your career, Will, because here it is that you've been to the Super Bowl already. You had a lead in that game and you lost to the very same team that beat you the other day. And I know the rules are new, but you gotta know, man. Then you have Andy Reid on the other hand, who his team, they talked about this all year long. They knew exactly what they were going to do, how they were going to do it. So it really surprises me that he didn't know, being a head coach and being in the biggest game of your life. And yes, I do think Dan Campbell would have known, and I think he would have had them boys ready, man.
I 1,000% agree. I think that this is just one of those things. Like, let me look at it from a outside looking in perspective. If I were Dan Campbell and I'm just coming into practice one day and I'm saying, let's say it's October, right? And you've got the record that you have. And you say, look, guys, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to practice for overtime in the Super Bowl. You guys are going to be like, what? What are you talking about? But no, you know what that does to them mentally? It makes them think that, man, we're going somewhere. We're going to do this thing, and we're going to prepare now. I think that Dan would throw him, a left jab like that, just occasionally. But good morning to everybody in the chat. We have the Wops. We have Denzel Vance. Here's Johnny, John Desage, Josh Jackson, Irv Duhart, Alonte Riggins, Rick Grit, Man Bear Pig. Is that still you? I don't know. Is it still you? King SJ from Toronto. Good morning. It's got to be early over there. Stat Pat 35, a finder of things. Man, we got a lot of people in here this morning. Some new faces. El Torrey, Win Southwell. Good morning, everybody. And do me a favor, if you guys are on Rocked On Syndicate this morning and you're not watching from Rocked On Podcast Network, send us a message. I had a message last week that said we avoided the chat. Now, we would never avoid the chat. They're all supposed to pop up into one. And sometimes, the software that you use just doesn't always work the greatest. So We're doing our best with it. We are going to upgrade, or I'm going to upgrade to a new software, and hopefully that'll change some things as well. So Darryl Bell, good morning. Hope you all have your liquid batteries, and don't forget sportspider.com. Check it out. You guys will love it. You'll see Derek and I are in there, and they're great partners to have. So next subject, man. You got to know what you're doing in the Super Bowl, and I'm just going to leave it like that. Like that's just something to me that really blew my mind, because I think that the Lions would have made this a much better contest. I really do. And I think it was really hard for a lot of fans to watch this game, watching, barely 10 points being scored in the first quarter. And then Antonio Brown comes out and says, man, I think these Lions would be up 34-10 right now, or whatever he said, score 35 points already. And he's right.
Yeah.
I think that he hit the nail on the head, man. This would have been a much better game had the Lions been in it. And I think that's all the more reason that they got to fight and scrap to get back to the Super Bowl in 2024. So what do you think, Derek? What do you think about the Lions being in this game, and how much better it would have been to see the Honolulu Blue there?
You know what, Will? It was a tough watch, man. Like, I know you and I are both fanatic fans, and the thing I love about fandom is it's all different. Everybody experiences in their own separate way. I just got to go back, man, because I missed the show. So I gotta go back, and I gotta tell the story, okay, of me traveling from San Francisco to the Rocked On Syndicate audience. So I have COVID as I disappear off screen. There we go. So I have it Saturday morning. My wife.
Hold on 1 second. I don't know what just happened, but can everybody see us okay? This happened to us like in our very first show. Like it just.
I thought you did that on purpose.
Nope. That just cut out for whatever reason.
Okay, so we're still there. We're still good.
All right, we're good. All right, keep going. So we're telling the story about traveling.
So I get up, and my wife, this is Saturday morning. My wife is like, I keep clearing my throat. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. This shit's Friday night. I didn't have it. Saturday morning, I do. I'm just all the way there, man. So I get there, and something is wrong. So I feel terrible. So I get to the game, and I know your experience was different, but I was up there with the riffraff. Bang Bang Niner gang is all on the top level. That's where they are. So I'm coming back Monday morning, and I was, so after the game was over, bro, I sat there for like 10 minutes and I just soaked it all in. I watched the fireworks, all that stuff happen. I'm coming back from the airport, and most people knew, Will, don't bother me. Don't bother me. Don't talk to me. This guy, I got on my chain. I'm repping my Lions gear. Only different was I didn't have a blue beard. So most people could tell that guy there, what happened with this team, probably don't talk to him. It won't be the smartest idea. So I had the TSA agent, and she's like, oh my God, I was rooting for you guys. What I realized, Will, is a lot of folks in California hate the 49ers. They hate them. So I'm like, okay, she was the only one. So I get in the airport, and this lady, she comes up. I'm sitting there minding my own business. Here she comes, her and her whole crew. And she was like, oh my God, I was rooting for you guys yesterday. And I got up, Will. I just walked away. I walked away. So to bring that back to I could not open my mouth. It was the rudest I had ever been in my entire life, right? And so it was almost like a pat on the head, man. Oh my God, I'm sorry. So to bring that back to the Super Bowl, it would have been so much better. It was so tough to watch. It was the most difficult, non-fun time that I think I've ever had watching a Super Bowl, knowing how close the Detroit Lions were, knowing that this game, I mean, it really made you appreciate our offense. And I know we're going to talk about this a little later in the show about the defense, bro, but it made it I appreciated the offense. I was like, oh my God, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, St. Brown, Jamison Williams, like we would have been all over the field, and it made it even tougher to watch. And it was so great to see America and non-Detroit Lions fans and former NFL players like, bro, what are we doing? What is this? What are we watching here? So yes, Will, to answer your question in a long about way, the Lions would have been so much different had we been in there, man. This game would have been a whole different feeling.
Yeah, I obviously believe the same thing. I watched the first half, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, this is pathetic. And I mean, I know before the game, I thought that there was going to be a tie for whatever reason. I put it out before the game. Big guess, got it right. And I thought the Chiefs would win in a close game, but man, I did not think it was going to be this close. Like I thought at some point, you were going to see the 49ers do their thing and they'd break loose, and they almost did. Interesting game, but I agree. It's you know what? It's time to move on. I think that the Lions would have beat both of those teams that day.
Mm-hmm.
Even the worst game that we played this season, which was against the Ravens, I still think if you would have taken us at our worst, that I think that we would have had a better day. I do believe, though, that the 49ers, since you mentioned defense, that the 49ers defense was playing pretty well. Mm-hmm. The Chiefs, they played pretty well at times too. But let's talk about Chris Jones for a second. You put out a video about Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And, look, I think that he's a wonderful player. I do. But when I look at the Super Bowl, now, I'll look at the stats first, and then you've got to look at the tape. The stats told me he didn't show up. But if you look at the tape, he affected what? That third down play that forced the 49ers to kick a field goal. So talk about Chris Jones. Why do you think that he could or could not be a good fit for the Lions? And how the defense overall would have helped these Lions have a better season in the end?
Well, the Chris Jones video that I made was from I think it was Bleacher Report. They do their potential landing spots for, players. So I took that. In actuality, I just don't see Brad Holmes doing that. And I said that in my video yesterday. That would be a tough sell. You're talking about a guy that's probably going to make $30 million. Now, I agree with you on he didn't maybe have the stat line, but he affected the game more often than not. There was a play that he chased the living life out of Brock Purdy, which essentially led to an incomplete pass as well. Had him scrambling. He did the spin move. Chris was still there. I was like, this dude for 3'10", 6'6", or whatever he is, he moves pretty darn good. But as far as the Lions, man, I would just like to see somebody, a monster like that. And that's, I've always liked the 49ers defense, Fred Warner, their defensive line. Nick Bosa is my favorite defensive end. So, but Chris Jones, man, at $30 million, not only, I just don't think that Brad would do that. I mean, would I love him to get a guy like a Danielle Hunter, Chris Jones? I would, man, because you know how I feel, Will. I feel like that we need a monster. And I know we don't have that. And we have like a baby monster and a developing monster in Aiden Hutchinson. But I want somebody that the offensive line is scared of. I want the quarterback to be in shotgun for, 90% of his snaps, because this guy is going to eat you up, whether it's from the edge or the middle. So Chris Jones, high price tag. You have the thing about holding out as well. And I don't know if Brad and Dan are looking for those guys that hold out, that hold in, which Danielle Hunter did. So Chris Jones is a monster. I think he would make any team better. And he did affect the game. He didn't get a ton of sacks, but he was always in the backfield all the time. And that's what I want to see from my team.
So, and before I go into this next one here, I'm going to talk about Chris Jones for a second too, but everybody in the chat, so light up some questions this morning. We would love to hear from you guys. So I want to start highlighting fans in the off season, because there's not going to be a ton to talk about. We're always going to have good content, but there's not going to be a ton to talk about. So start firing up some questions. What do you guys want to know? You guys always do great at giving us your statements. I want to hear your questions, and let's see how we can transition this morning show into the fans, because that's what it's all about. So Chris Jones, he's 30 years old. He's a game wrecker. I think he only has 5 years of experience though. Didn't he come into the league late? I think he only has 5 years experience in the NFL. Am I wrong there?
Yeah.
Or no,
He's been in the league since 26. Yeah, he's got more than 5 years, bro.
More than 5 years?
He got way more than 5 years.
Maybe it was someone else I was looking at that is older and only has 5 years. But Chris Jones, he's going to command between, OTC says 17 million, but we know it's going to be pushing up to 25 plus.
Yeah.
If he took 17 million, I don't think it would be, an issue for any team to want to sign him.
17 million, it's like this year, or 17 to 20. So yeah, that's way wrong.
And that's why I don't like all of their valuations. So OTC's valuation right now is 17.4, with an APY of 20 million. And I think that that's going to be closer to 25, 27. And he might only get a 2 or 3 year deal. I just don't see the Lions doing something like that. One with an older guy. If he was 27, probably, but I think he's a little bit too old. But this is the kind of guy that we're looking for. I think that 30 is probably the cap, you know, where Brad Holmes might feel comfortable. And I'm putting words into Brad's mouth right now. This is my opinion. I think 30 is the cap that you really would think about spending some, you know, solid money on somebody. I think that they want to spend money on a second contract guy. And that's what you saw with Cam Sutton, second contract guy, younger, in his prime, willing to spend a little bit of money. And if he hits in that second contract, then he's definitely going to get paid, you know, a couple more seasons after that. But I like what he brings to the table. And then you've got Bosa on the other side of the ball. We're talking about defensive ends too. And we do need somebody on the other side of the ball. Now, Brad Holmes in his presser to end the season spoke about bookends and having pairs. Remember how he said, you know, people would love to have pairs. I know you want us to have pairs of defensive ends, pairs of this, pairs of that. I almost felt like he was specifically talking to us, right?
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I got to tell you, though, I think what he was trying to say is people want it up front. They want it now. You know, you get two guys in the draft, not one of each. He was trying to build his core. Still is. I still think that he's going to be building his core, especially if you go back and watch the video that I did the other day about what, you know, about the Chiefs and how the Lions will be the new Chiefs, because they've drafted. They had more than 24 guys on this starting roster that they've drafted. So I believe Brad Holmes is going to continue to draft, and he's going to get a defensive end this year. I really believe it.
Okay.
But I think now is when he's going to start pairing guys up in this draft. That's where I'm going with this. I think that he's going to start looking for the pairs to start getting dominant. So what do you think about that? Okay,
Will. So let's have a segment, bro, like a spicy take. Because I was watching your video and I was thinking, I was like, this will be a good talking point for the show tomorrow. And that is, and we'll get the chat involved as well. Maybe we can put out a poll one of these days when we get a producer. But I heard what you were saying, and a lot of people are saying build through the draft. And I have an opinion that if you look at the last 10 Super Bowl winners, and you could say that half of them have made some type of needle moving move in free agency. You had the Denver Broncos bring in Peyton Manning, right? You had Marshawn Lynch, who was not drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. If you go back 10 years, you go back to the Seattle Seahawks. And I think this was the year of they should have ran Marshawn, right? So now we're at the point of you look at the last 10 years. And there's a lot of teams. You got the Patriots in there, and they don't do anything in free agency. So you take them out. You take Bill Belichick out. Then you have Patrick Mahomes and his three. You take them out because you don't have a ton of teams that can just simply build through the draft and win the Super Bowl. So my question is, I agreed that Brad Holmes, I felt like he was talking. I was like, is this guy watching my videos? Is he? Because it sounds like he's talking directly to me. But when it comes to building through the draft and free agency, I want to get your take. It appears as though you are saying build through the draft. We don't have to take a chance on, let's say, a free agent person like I would want. I feel like that we need somebody to move the needle, and we need I'm not asking for a bunch of pieces, Will, just one, maybe two. A game-changing player in free agency that's worthy of the money. Not a Trey Flowers, not one of those guys, but Danielle Hunter, worth every single penny. Chris Jones, worth every single penny. I feel like we need that. I feel like that the grit warriors, that this building through the draft, I see how he's doing it, Will. I agree with it. I love it. But I also want him. I know you can't solve every problem in the draft. So I don't know if we can be the next Kansas City Chiefs or the next New England Patriots. So that's my thought, that I want us to make a move for a game changer in free agency. So I want to get your take.
All right. So I think if I understand the question here is, do you build through the draft primarily and then grab, go ahead.
No, that's right. That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Build through the draft primarily. And then you grab, a stud game changer or two. And I would say, yes, I believe that you grab one or two. What I would not be willing to do is to get away from what I've been doing, which is building the core. Because and I use the Chiefs as an example, because if you go all the way back to 2013, they have Kelsey, Mahomes, and Chris Jones. Those are like the oldest guys on the team, I believe. There might be one more, but pretty much since 2020, almost all of the players that they've been drafted are starting on this team still. So you've got more than 24 players. I think you have 29 on the team totally that they drafted since 2013. And you've got more than 24 on the team since 2020. Okay. The point that I'm trying to make is that's an entire squad. So you need to draft your core because you want to bring them through your development. You want to make sure that they understand how you want them to train and how you want them to play, and for them to learn your systems. When you start bringing new systems into your team, new guys that have to come in and gel, and they have to learn the continuity and the chemistry and, how the team operates and identify with the culture. I think that the right person can do it, but sometimes you have those outliers that are just outliers for a reason, and they're kind of on their own island and they may not fit very well. And I feel like some of those game changers can be that way. I'm not saying all of them are. So I guess to answer the question, it would be this. I think that you have to continue to build through the draft. You do need to grab a game changer or two, but I don't think that you have to spend top bucket money on somebody to be a game changer. I think that you're better off grabbing a couple while your team is still young that are in the mid-range. And then at some point, yes, you have to grab a game changer. And that could be trade deadline if someone is available. But I don't see Brad Holmes. I guess I'm answering this from what Brad Holmes has been doing.
Yeah.
Right. Now, for me, I would love to go in and grab a Matabuki. I would love to go in and grab a Christian Wilkins. I would love to go in and grab, somebody that is, a big time free agent, but it doesn't fit the model for Detroit. It doesn't fit the model for what he's trying to build is my take.
And I feel like that we're not going to, I feel like we're not going to move. I don't think, I think, okay, let me rephrase that. We are, if you look at we were there building through the draft, and the core, yes, built through the draft. And I use this example all the time. You are building something, but eventually you got to paint that something. You have to decorate that something, right? You have to get a piece, in this illustration, a cosmetic piece. The foundation is already built. And I think, and you've been talking about 4 drafts, I think that this is the draft that core foundation, the Ife Melifonwus, the St. Browns, who's about to get paid, by the way. So you have the core, and I agree 100%. He better. Well, that's a whole different topic, Will. He better. But here's the thing that I'm trying to say is I think that if you look at teams outside of the Kansas City Chiefs who have Patrick Mahomes, and you can't take anything from him. That man is number one. You got the New England Patriots. You got Bill Belichick is the perfect example of not doing anything in free agency. Mediocre moves. You take everyone else, Will, the Los Angeles Rams, the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks. They make a move for a person that is going to push them over the edge. That is what I want the Detroit Lions to do. I think we went up to the edge, right? And now it's to go up to the edge and this time jump off the cliff now. We are at the edge, Will. Now we need that push. And I know that a monster, you got to bring in a monster. I don't want them to sacrifice the future, but I think Brad Holmes is smart enough that he can do both. He can get a monster and he not sacrifice the future, because I will always pick the future over a monster any day of the week. Trey Flowers was enough for me, right? He should have never been paid all that money. But I'm saying, could you imagine the internet would break if we signed Danielle Hunter? It would 100%. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying is I agree with you 100%. Build through the draft, core foundational pieces. But if you look at the general NFL, it's like that's the guy we need. Rams said we need Matthew Stafford, but they also got Odell Beckham, Von Miller. All 3 of them pieces contributed to them guys winning a Super Bowl. They needed all 3 to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, who have built through the draft. But again, Will, the Cincinnati Bengals, they got to the edge and couldn't get over, right? Because they also need some pieces as well. They got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Joey Cool. And guess what? They still need a Penei Sewell. So
that's the issue. They never had an offensive line.
Exactly. So, but the Chiefs went and got Jawan jump offside Taylor, and he was you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, I just want he was, man. He was. I didn't look, he was jumping on. I was like, how he gonna go from the Jacksonville Jaguars, jump offside, not offside, it's a false start, and win a Super Bowl? I mean, Isaiah Bugs got a Super Bowl for guys. So anyway, man, I'm just like, I think that if Brad Holmes, I just want to say, I want to see him sitting and saying, you know what? I know I've been cap strapped. I know I've been salary cap, but go get me Danielle Hunter. Like, that's what I want to see, bro. I want to see him go get somebody that's worth every penny that will contribute to this team and push us over the edge.
So here, I'm going to rephrase the poll that I put up. I put up there, build through the draft or buy all in free agency. So build through the draft will be yes. Build through the draft will be yes. Buy all in free agency will be no. I probably should have delineated that when I put up the poll, but so buy through the draft, yes. Buy all in free agency, no. And here's what I'm going to respond with. And look, to me, it's simple. John Taylor mentions it. You disappeared. I'll bring you back in a moment. Dan Campbell this is what John Taylor had to say. Dan Campbell said, we are going to the Super Bowl next year and we are going to do whatever it takes to get there. So do you think Dan Campbell is going to ask Brad Holmes to get a high price free agent? And my would be, I think that this would be the year it happens. So if I'm going to get out of my box and get away from what I believe in, based on what Dan Campbell said, I'm sure he's gone to Brad and said, look, if we're going to get back, we've got to do something. And I do agree that you grab one. I just think that if you grab more than one high price free agent, you're going to break your own bank. And to your point, the Lions haven't had money in years. They've had more dead cap than cap space because they used to buy in free agency all the time. So you can't just spend all of your nuggets in free agency. You have to build your core through the draft, because then you have low price contracts, right? Yep. The only high price contracts are the top 12 in the first round. After that, it starts to really fall off in a hurry. And then you've got the roster roulette game that I've brought to everyone's attention, how I play it. Like, this would be the year I'm getting a defensive end, because Aiden is now entering his third season. So now you need to put another one in the funnel. And if he turns out to be a number one overall, and let's say, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but let's say Aiden kind of falls off and doesn't become that guy. Are you going to pay him $25-30 million a year as a defensive end if he's really not elite? But yet he's going to want that money. Someone will overpay for him. So you drop a new defensive end in the funnel this year, and you get ready for Aiden Hutchinson's contract. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Clearly should be paid as a number one. He isn't a number one by measurables and prototypical size, but the dude's a game wrecker. He's a game changer. He affects the game when he's in the game. This is the year you add a receiver, because now you have to get ready for Amon-Ra's contract. So if they don't sign him or extend him now, and they wait till next year, which I don't think would happen, you have to prepare. So you bring up one in the funnel, drop it in. They're now cheap. Right? You've got them for 4 or 5 seasons. So you're constantly recycling. But to Brad's point and to Dan's point, they want to keep their own guys. And that's why you build through the core, is they want to bring their guys in, develop them, train them, re-sign them, the ones that they want to keep. This is the year that you bring in a tackle. This is the year you bring in a center because of Ragnow's health, but a tackle because you have expiring contracts. Taylor Decker's on his way out. You need a new left tackle, or you bring in a right tackle, you put Penei Sewell back to the left side. You could do either one. So roster roulette, buying through the draft, or supplementing through free agency and filling through the draft is the key.
Yes.
If the Lions want to go the next step, they are going to have to bring in a proven player. My question is this, and I'll go back to some of the questions in the chat. My question is this: is it going to be a defensive end, defensive tackle, or cornerback? Because I believe the Lions get one free agent that is going to be elite, quasi-elite, that will help this team in 2024. So which one's it going to be?
That's a good one, Will. That's a good one, because I've been stuck on defensive end. Okay, I'm going to say this. They're going to try for a defensive end, but a lot of the dogs, a lot of the game wreckers can be franchise tagged. I don't think the Minnesota Vikings are going to tag Daniil. I don't think Daniil plays on a franchise tag. He has shown that. And so does he fit in what will he play? Because remember, Dan said no level of talent is going to get you on this team if you don't have what it takes. So that's my biggest thing with him. So I think they're going to try for a defensive end simply because of the man, the myth, the legend, Broderick Martin. There's a reason that they traded up to get him. However, if the defensive ends are gone and a Chris Jones is sitting there and Brad is like, I saw what you did in the Super Bowl. I mean, Chris Jones has 75 sacks, Will. He has, what did he get? 15 and a half last year or 2 years ago. The dude is a absolute monster, but he also, he held out. He did not play, which was, I'm not going to act like I was mad he didn't play the only game of the season. So I'm going to say that because of the moves that Brad Holmes made in 2023 free agency, the CJ Gardner-Johnsons, the Cam Suttons, the Emmanuel Mosley, he then takes a Brian Branch in the draft. So he addressed the secondary, but he left that defensive line real light. The only thing he did was Broderick, I will not play Martin, right? So I feel they're going to go for a defensive end. If they miss, they'll get a defensive tackle. That's what or will they get a defensive end that's stud? Then all of a sudden, you get a CJ Gardner-Johnson type defensive tackle. One of them guys, low contract, still kind of a quiet dog. You're like, wait a minute, I forgot about this dude. He kind of legit, right? But then you got that monster guy on the outside. So I think the target will be a defensive end in free agency. That's what I honestly, truly believe.
Defensive end in free agency?
Defensive end in free agency. That's what I think.
I think that I would love to see a lockdown, shutdown dog, the other side of Aiden. I just think it's going to be a rookie. And that's early. We're talking pre-draft, right? Pre-free agency right now. My thought today, and it's going to change most likely as more information comes out. I think that they're going to go after a cornerback. I think that they're going to try to find a second-year contract guy, just like they did with Cam Sutton, and draft somebody, because you can never have enough corners. And the Lions are very light in the cornerback room, DB room, we'll call it, because they lost a lot of players, to free agency this year, but also to injury. And I don't think that they're going to be bringing back guys like Jerry Jacobs. Let's talk about Tracy Walker for just a moment. We will in a moment, but we'll talk about Tracy Walker in just a few moments here. There was a question that came in just a moment ago that I want to walk back to.
Okay.
And I got to find it real quick. Give me just a moment.
Brad Holmes better get it. He has to get it. He got to get an edge, bro. Why are you looking for this comment? He has to. I'm looking at the draft. Who are we going to take? We picked 29th. Who are we taking? Remember, I think we move up. He said he don't want to be tempted to trade out of the first round. Did you hear him say that?
Say that again.
He said that on his season-ending presser. He doesn't want to be tempted to trade out of the first round.
Yeah.
So where's the edge coming from?
There's got to be the draft, man. It has to be. It has to be. So if I don't know where this question went, so I'm just going to move on. If I see it again, I'll bring it back up. But I don't know what happened to it. It must be back there.
I'll look for while you're talking.
It was talking about the draft.
Okay.
I don't know. It seems like I'm missing a lot of chats right now for some reason. But anyway, let me move on.
Okay.
Let's talk about Tracy Walker for just a moment. So there's been some information that came out about Tracy. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, or spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, that, he's up for roughly $12.8 million this year. And part of that is, roster bonuses. Let me pull up his contract again. And you got to remember too, that this information is by ways of OTC, over the cap. So sometimes it's not always the most accurate, but in 2024, now next year's a void year in 25, but in 2024, he's due 4.8 in prorated bonus. So that's going to hit the cap no matter what. He has a $50,000 workout bonus. His base salary is $7.95 million. In total, he's due to make 12.8. I do not see on any earth where Tracy Walker is going to make more than Cam Sutton and not play or barely play, get benched. I just don't see it happening. So if you cut him pre-June 1 or trade him, the Lions would save $5.5 million. So here's my question, Derek. Mm-hmm. Given the fact that Tracy Walker came off a nasty injury and worked his way back and probably needed another season to get healthy, get his feet back under him, so to say, do you see where the Lions would restructure him, completely renegotiate his contract and say, we want to save about $3 million this year. We're going to give you 2.5 to play. But we need to save some money, or we cut you. What do you think the better move would be with Tracy Walker?
Well, to me, Will, it depends on CJ Gardner, man, because once CJ came, I mean, even before that, Tracy was inactive. The dude was inactive, bro. Like on the inactive list, he became the second half Broderick Martin. So I'm trying to see, where does he fit in at? As far as, I mean, the Lions are, if CJ Gardner-Johnson, who's not under contract, comes back, I don't know if Tracy fits. I just don't know, because I'm saying to myself, he was inactive. Like, so obviously there was zero need for him in depth, because if you're inactive, that means you can't even suit up. So I feel like they're going to find some way. I think he's going to be this year's Jeff Okudah, DeAndre Swift. I think maybe they trade to some team that's light at safety who may need a potential guy to come in there and start. I don't really know who that could be. I haven't really looked, but I'm sure there's a team out there. I mean, Deshaun Elliott went and got a contract with the Miami Dolphins, and he played well over there. So I'm going to say that Brad Holmes is probably going to maybe try to ship him, man. I think, like I said, this year's Jeff Okudah, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, so I'm in the boat of, I would probably try to restructure him, because no matter what you do, you're going to have some dead cap. Mm-hmm. No matter what you do, I think that $7.3 million in dead cap is going to stay unless Tracy allows them to restructure, like really restructure and renegotiate the contract. I think the dead cap stays. So in my opinion, I would rather save, let's say they can save $3 million and keep him around through camp and see if he can just turn the lights on, because at most you're going to save $5.5 million at most. And I just don't think that's a lot of money to get rid of, a guy that could potentially be a great backup. He could definitely come in some of the bigger packages, but if we go out and draft and hire through free agency, I don't see that there's a fit for him. I don't. And I think, to your point too, if CJ Gardner does come back, there's no room for Tracy Walker. There just really isn't. He won't play. Not for that amount of money. Maybe he's trade bait, but the Lions are probably gonna have to pick up a lot of the tab on, maybe he's trade bait, I guess. That's always a potential.
Remember the Atlanta Falcons? We worked with them. I think we paid some of Jeff Okudah's salary or something like that. Remember when we traded him? So I'm hearing from different places around, man, that CJ Gardner-Johnson is maybe looking at a 2-year deal. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, I could believe in that. And you know what? I'm not afraid of a 2-year deal. I think that it has to be around that $6 million mark. I don't know how old CJ is. I don't think that, like, I know he's worth more than that. I know that he's probably commanding closer to 10, maybe more. But I think that if he stays in Detroit, how can you pay him more than $6 million? I didn't see enough out of him this year to go all in. You know what I mean? I just didn't. So I really can't see where the Lions would make that kind of a mistake. I mean, I would much rather go. I mean, if you're going to spend big money on CJ, I think I would rather go get an AJ Epinesa, but we won't talk about him today just yet.
I think CJ Gardner-Johnson owe us, man. I do. Like, he can't. What I mean is, he was kind of feeling some type of way last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, how they didn't prioritize him. So he kind of accepted the deal with the Detroit Lions, saw that we were up and coming. I feel like CJ Gardner-Johnson, not necessarily a hometown discount, but like, I got hurt in game number 2, worked my tail off to come back. I played a total of 5 games, I think, right? So maybe I could come back for, don't forget, what was it, $8.5 million with 6 something guaranteed. So I feel like CJ Gardner, it might not necessarily be about the money with CJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he does come back for maybe, I don't know, man, maybe $12-15 million 2-year deal. I don't know. That's going to be intriguing. But like you said, we bring him back. I don't see Tracy because the dude was inactive. So you're at that point saying we don't even need you to suit up. So we don't need you, right? So I'm thinking that Tracy I think Lions don't have a 4th round pick. I'm not sure they'll get a 4th for him. Maybe they may get an additional 5th round pick. And Brad has traded up. He has traded in every single draft thus far. So maybe we deal Tracy and we get an extra 5th round pick. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I can see it. I think there's a lot of options. There's definitely a lot of options, and not to throw shade at anybody today, but as far as draft talk, and when we talk about the prospects coming up through the draft, we'll do some dedicated shows on that. It's kind of hard to spitball, everything. I mean, there's your key guys, your key guys, but I see some questions in here. I'm not trying to ignore it. We'll do some dedicated shows on these guys and videos. So all that stuff will be coming out as we prepare for this stuff. So Brent says grading Tracy Walker with a 0 to 10. Where do you put him? Based on this last season, a 5. I think that he has some ability. I think that obviously he's good, locker room guy. He's probably good, with this culture that's there. Otherwise he wouldn't be there. I just feel like his ability on the field wasn't where it should have been for somebody that has been around for a little bit. I think that it's going to take a lot for Tracy to come back to this team. I really do.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. John Desage says depth is pretty important. I'd rather keep Tracy than get a late round pick for him unless we need that cap space for a big free agent. So again, I think we'd save about $5.5 million if we just straight cut him. That doesn't mean that the cap implications for next year, because I believe there's another $2.5 million that comes due. So it could be dead cap of $9.8 million. You'd save 5.5 over the life of his contract. But that money has already been paid out too. Prorated bonuses have already been paid out. They're already counting towards the cap. But you could save $5.5 million. And what could you do with $5.5 million? I think that you could re-sign CJ Gardner for a 1-year prove-it deal for maybe 6.5, 7. And you're almost there just by cutting Tracy. So it's almost a 1-for-1 trade-off.
Yeah.
All right, Jonah Jackson. Let's talk about Jonah. Let's talk about the offensive line. And then we're going to get into Goff's contract here just for a minute, because there's been more stuff keeps popping up. I keep hearing things about Hendon Hooker too. Man, I just want to put it to rest. Like, I don't know why people get these thoughts. I mean, I get it. We're all excited. But in the poll, real quick to end the poll. So do you buy through the draft? Yes. Or do you go all in free agency? No. So 74% said that they would build through the draft. 26% said free agency. Here's what's interesting about that. I think that that's the method. 75% draft when you're talking starters, 26% free agency. Mm-hmm. Very close to what I think that the percentage could be to how you would build out your team. So if you've got 22 guys, on a roster, maybe you're getting, 6-7 guys through free agency. And here's what's funny about that. Go look at the Chiefs roster. I just went through it the other day. Mm-hmm. There was about 5 guys on offense, 3-4 guys on offense, 3-4 guys on defense that were starters that were bought through free agency. So the numbers align. I find that interesting. Offensive line. Jonah Jackson, what's your initial thought on Jonah and where the Lions need to focus this season to keep this offensive line intact?
We signed an offensive lineman to a futures contract, and I don't know much about him. I haven't done any research. I think Jonah is going to be the Evan Brown of this year. I just don't think that we re-sign him. I don't know what they're going to do because he is a key piece to the offensive line. But I think that he's going to walk. I don't think he comes back because from just early rumblings, and I think a lot of this stuff in the media is true. There's some truth to it that he's going to want a deal that the Lions aren't going to want to pay. So, but at the same time, you have Frank, who's confirmed that he's coming back. Taylor's going to play. You've got, Penei Sewell. And do you want or is it going to take to keep this together if that's what you want to do? Or does Brad Holmes, I mean, have a guy in the draft or free agency that he could plug onto this offensive line? So last year we lost Evan Brown. We did pretty well. Still no Vitae. He's going to be gone. So Jonah Jackson, I think he walks. I don't think he comes back to the Detroit Lions.
So I'm kind of mixed on this. One, I feel that it's time for the rally cap. All right. So one, I feel that look, Jonah, when he's out of the game, you could feel it. You could see it. There was impact on the field with him in the game. But be that as it may, if you have Ragnow, if you have Decker, and you have Panay, so you've got the center and your bookends locked in. I think this becomes a question of youth with Jonah versus a guy that played way better than Jonah, Graham Glasgow. And Graham is not like super over the hill in football years. He still has a few good seasons left. I think Graham is probably looking for about 8 million, 8.5 million, maybe 2-year deal. And Jonah, I think someone's going to way overpay for him. And that's going to price the Lions out of the market for Jonah. I feel like they're better suited to go and find that center in the draft that will come in and play guard this season and be ready to replace Ragnow. Everybody, I think, would be in agreement that when you buy a quarter, or you bring in a quarterback, you bring in a center, you bring in a tight end, whoever it is, a corner, quarterback, and a center, those are positions that need probably the most time to learn. And if you can bring them in for at least one season to learn and still get them on the field, you are doing your team a huge solid. So for that reason, I think the Lions bring in a center that'll play guard, and they bring back Graham Glasgow versus Jonah Jackson. I think that they're going to save money that way. And I mean, Graham played better than Jonah. If you go look at his numbers, he played way better than Jonah. So for that reason, I think that Jonah doesn't come back, and I'm not worried about it. I believe that the offensive line is going to be fine. I really do.
Agreed.
King SJ brought up a good point. So the other day I mentioned that today would be the day that I was hearing that Matthew Betts would be signed. And today is when CFL free agency starts. So I guess that aligns. I didn't know that, but today is the free.
The Lions couldn't sign him until this week. Is
right.
That why?
Yeah, because it's just like the NFL's new league year, right? In free agency, you can't start doing it till a certain date. But I didn't know that was today. I was just hearing that it was going to be today that the Lions would have their first crack at it. So I believe, they already brought him in last year. He had a little stint with the Bears before that. So that to me would tell us that we might see Matthew Betts signed to a futures contract today. And that would be great. I think this guy, I've watched some tape on him. I've listened to some interviews, watched his most recent tape this last season. This guy's a baller. He's got good size. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be a game wrecker, but he's a Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell guy to a T. That's your Andrew Van Ginkel right there.
Yeah, and listen, Andrew's still on the market, man. He's still on but I think that this is a great depth piece. I think that this is going to be, I like this move. I said it when I talked about the potential of them signing him to the futures, that was because that dropped last week. I love this. Doesn't take away from the dog that we need. But the Lions, here's what I feel, Will, and this is why I like the Matthew Betts. I feel like Brad is a smart GM, obviously, right? He's elevated status, not GOAT status to me yet. Still some bad decisions in there. We all make them, right? But in the NFL, they're costly. The Trinity Bensons, the Broderick Marks, they're costly decisions. But I feel like Brad, because we were wondering what kind of GM he was. I was. And you said the secondary was horrific. What does he do? He goes out. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, like boom, boom, boom. I was like, okay, I see you. So now I feel like he feels that same way about the defensive line. And it's going to be boom, boom, boom. And I think that Betts is like a small cog in that bigger wheel. So I love this, bro. I love the fact that if somebody goes in, you know what this guy remind me of, man? Somebody from like The Longest Yard or Bobby Boucher. Like his motor. This dude had 18 sacks in 18 games and was still trying to come play football. So yeah. I would love for this to happen, man. I'm not mad at this at all.
So someone brought up a good question here, Brent. Did the Okora brothers walk? And I have to apologize that I have not read anything on the Okora brothers. I thought that we did not re-sign one of the brothers to a futures. Was that Julian?
Yes, Julian.
So Julian did not get re-signed, so he will be a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
What about Romeo? I think this was the last year of his contract. If memory serves me right, they renegotiated his contract last year, and it made a 2-year deal left to a 1-year deal. So I believe he will be a free agent as well. Don't quote me. We'll get some more information.
And I also believe Charles Harris is in that group. So I'm not certain about that as well, but I know he did a 2-year deal. But even if they're under contract, bro, I don't think these guys are coming back. I think the Detroit Lions are going to cut their losses because remember Charles Harris, bro, you can't even name a single thing he did in 2023. So I think Romeo, Julian, and Charles are all gone. I think the 3 of them are gone. Matthew Betts, some dog in free agency, and Andrew Van Ginkel is going to replace them. So I think that all 3 of them guys going to be gone.
I'm in the boat with that. I do believe that there's an outside chance that one of them, not Harris, not Romeo, Julian, the younger one, there's an outside chance that he comes back as a, 1-year camp body kind of guy, get through camp. I do believe there's an outside chance for that. Brian Ruth, good morning. That's a new name. Haven't heard it. Welcome to Rockdown Syndicate. I apologize if I haven't seen you in the past. But he brought up a name, and I just happened to watch these highlights last night. And I know I said I wouldn't do this today, but he says, I've been thinking of what our line looks like. Here, let me get it up. I've been thinking of what our line looks like with Hutch, McNeil, Sweat from Texas, and then maybe a Hunter. DBs would look a ton better instantly. So you bring up a good point that if you fix the D line, your DBs can be so-so, right? They can be so-so, and they will look like they're all-stars. If you do the same thing with the DBs, you get all-stars back there. That makes the D line look like all-stars. But here's the name that you just dropped that I love. Devondre Sweat. Go watch this guy's tape. You are going to get excited. This guy will take on double teams, fight through it. He's got so many moves. He loves to rip, swim, and throw the guys to the ground, and he'll still find a way to get to the running back. His eyes are always up forward. I'm going to drop a video on him this week. Love the guy. Amazing prospect. I think that he's almost the size of Broderick Martin, just way more athletic. So we'll see what happens. He's a great prospect.
You see him going in the second round?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I've got to watch and write it all up. So I don't know if you caught my video. I did a little live yesterday, Derek, and what I was showing people is the kind of the work that I put into this. And you and I spoke about this in, a couple months ago, that I would go through and rank, I'd grab the top 20, I would get all their measurables, and then I would find that perfect size, perfect size for, that positional group. And then I will go hunt down the prospects in, the college prospects coming into the draft. And the combine really helps me finish, my last mock drafts, because the tape tells you so much. The stats tell you so much. What you read tells you so much. But I really think that if you identify the perfect size, that'll help give you an idea of what these teams are looking for.
Makes sense.
But size doesn't always matter. I mean, you get a couple of guys every year that will shake that tree because, Aaron Donald wasn't prototypical size, but man, did he wreck the game of football when he entered the NFL. So Brian Ruth says nickname for Sweat is already Earthquake. I love it, man. The guy, that's why I think the Lions might be able to grab a defensive end, a defensive tackle in the draft. It is limited. It's a light draft compared to last year on defensive line, but there's a couple of gems in there. I just hope that he fits the culture. I really do.
All right, so I know we got to move on to Jared Goff, but I just throw this out here. I think Brad trades out of the first round. I think he does. I think that he's going to take more picks. And that's what I think. 29 is not going to work for him. I think he trades out of it.
I said the same thing last week, but I think that he trades forward.
Really? If he
does, if the right, I could see it already. If the right guy's not there, if he doesn't trade up, and I've looked at some teams already. I think that the Arizona, here, let me throw this out there. The Arizona Cardinals. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'll pause with that for just a second. I got to look at what I posted because
You know what, Will? That's why I think we make a move for a guy. I gotta remember that a lot of these dog free agents can be franchise tag, but the one that I don't think gets franchise tag is Danielle Hunter. And I know age is a factor. He'll be 30 as the trade deadline looms, but the dude is an absolute monster. He's like getting better. He's in phenomenal shape, 16 and a half sacks, and he's a big dude. He's going to be scary for anybody trying to block him. So I think Danielle could be the guy that Brad is looking for. Another Minnesota, pick. We already traded TJ and traded with them to get Jameson Williams. So I think, even though it doesn't matter because he's a free agent, but I think Danielle's the guy that we go after.
So where I was going with this was Arizona Cardinals. So I posted this yesterday. Last year, I said that the Houston Texans were going to be the surprise team of the year. This year, I'm calling it to be the Arizona Cardinals. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because we're talking about Brad moving off, the pick in the draft. Mm-hmm. Last year, I said that we would move off of 6 and stay within the top 12. We traded with Arizona. This year, Arizona has a bevy of picks. They have like the most picks I think they have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, or something crazy like that.
Oh my God.
So that's why I'm calling the Arizona Cardinals to be the Houston Texans of 2023 in 2024.
Oh my God.
Will. I think the Cardinals are about to jump and they're going to make some big moves, but I also feel like this is big trade bait with Brad Holmes. I think that if he's going to move with the Cardinals somewhere, back or forward. So if his guy is there earlier in the first round, Brad's jumping up. And then that gives Arizona Cardinals what? More draft picks. So I think that they're going to be more interested to move because they have a lot of draft capital and they really need to build that team. So if they add more draft picks in this draft, they could keep them, trade them, do whatever they want. But I think that Brad Holmes would be more apt to move off of 2025 capital and move up in this draft to go up and get the guy he wants because of why. Brad Holmes has said it time and time again. I do not care where I pick these guys. It's best player available that's on his board. That's why Jack Campbell was taken at 18. Yeah, everybody said he was a second-round guy. But that's why he took Jack Campbell at 18. That's why he took Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12. Those were the best players available on his board. He did not draft for need. That's what scares me about the draft in Brad Holmes because we know he doesn't draft for need. Mm-hmm. Is he going to change his mind this year?
And I think that's why I think that's why the defensive line will be addressed in free agency. Will, what's the most draft picks you can have? Because I heard it was like 14.
Is there a cap on it?
I that's what I heard. I don't know. I've done no research. The Arizona Cardinals. Oh my God! If we had I didn't even know this, so you said something and I looked it up. This is ridiculous. Like I would be, bro. I probably like this right here. They have 2 first rounders. They pick 4th, 27. And okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their 13 picks, only 6 are theirs. They have 27 from Houston. They have 71 from the Tennessee Titans. They have 90 from Houston. They have 160 from Houston. They have the Minnesota Vikings pick 187. They have the New York Giants 222 and the Cleveland Browns 240. They weren't even trying to, man. Wow.
So how many are in the top 100?
How many of the top 100? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they have 104.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's insane. That is
ridiculous. Yeah, they are.
So they're picking at 4 and 27. Is that it?
4 and 27. Yep.
All right. So here's 35. My hot take. You know who I like, and you know what I said months ago, that the Lions are going to move up in the draft to grab who?
I don't remember. Remind me.
Marvin Harrison will slip to number 4 in this draft.
No. No, Will. Wait. So what are you saying? What
I'm saying is roster roulette. If you don't want to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have to bring in a dog. Now, I'm not saying that I don't want Amon-Ra around. I'm not saying that.
Right.
What I'm saying is it's all about the money. It's all about the franchise. It's all about the team. It's all about the core. Brad is a businessman, right? He's not a player's GM. He's a businessman. Mm-hmm. So if he's really going to consider building this team for the future and keeping it healthy, you have to grab another wide receiver in this draft. You're going to have Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's just call Sam Laporta a receiver because that's what he is. But Josh Reynolds is gone. You have Khalif Raymond. Who else do we really have?
Yeah, we only have 4.
Yeah. So you need another wide
Jameson.
receiver.
Yeah, but are the Arizona Cardinals going to be dumb enough to not take Marvin Harrison Jr.?
That's what I don't know yet. But I think that if Brad moves all the way up, it would be for a dynamic offensive player. I don't think it's going to be for a defensive player because those players are going to be available at the end of the first and early second. There's no reason to really move up. I think that he can get an amazing player at 29. I really do. I think that he can get an amazing player early in the second round and back off that first round pick, just, a few. So
I'm going to say there's no way the Arizona Cardinals move from 4. There's no way they're going to stand pat. They're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. There's no way, bro. Even if Brad could offer that, and they're going to take this guy. There's no way.
See, but Arizona needs a quarterback.
Do they though? They believe in Kyler. They're not going to take. They believe in him. He came, bro. He came and they start winning games. They paid him. If they do this, bro. Wow. They just
extended Kyler, did they not last year or the year before?
The year before. They signed him when it was the year they were 7-0, which was 3 seasons ago. They signed him. Or no, it was the year after that. They signed him to a massive extension. There's no way, bro. I think people were saying that because of Cliff Kingsbury and the fact that him and Cliff was having friction. You could see them arguing on the sidelines and blah, blah, blah. Now Kyler comes back, destroys the NFL. You see what you missed. I remember that play that he ran for like 100 yards and still threw a pass. Kyler ain't going nowhere, bro. There's no way the Arizona Cardinals let Marvin Harrison Jr. slip through their fingers. There's no way.
I think if they believe in Kyler Murray and if the right quarterback is not there, then they would grab Marvin. I think anybody would be stupid to not grab Marvin Harrison. But I'm also looking at it from a perspective of, okay, I have 6 picks in the top 104, 7 picks in the top 104. I trade with the Lions. I'm now going to have the same or more in the top 100, and I can still grab an amazing receiver after that. I think that they're looking at building their team because they need a lot of players. And quite honestly, Kyler Murray, I'm not sold on him. I don't think that he's going to be a game changer. I don't think he's going to be a franchise quarterback for the next decade. I think that they're going to try to get off of him and maybe even trade him to somebody that needs a quarterback and add more picks. Who knows? But I'm not going in that direction just yet. I just think it's an option.
It's going to be a good one, bro. This is going to be good.
Yeah, I think this draft is going to be exciting. It's also in Motown, so Brad has got something up his sleeve. He does. All right, let me look in the chat this morning. And I apologize. We're kind of leaving you guys alone this morning, but I am reading them. Rick Grit says one hand washes the other. Secondary and defensive line feed off each other. Brian Ruth says nickname for Sweat. Oh, I read that one. Black Mama 313 says we need at least DBs and someone on the opposite side of Hutch and another dog in the middle. I agree. Brian Ruth,
Broderick Martin.
That's right. Broderick did say that he's going to have this, crazy offseason like Aleem did. Slim down, get more flexible. I really hope he does. He is so rigid. He needs to get some Pilates or something in him. I do too, though. So I'm rigid too. I'm old. Brian Ruth says, I'm going to skip that one. Sorry. It was kind of a question of a question. Ryan Van Valkenburg says, Jared Goff. Derek says, I like Brandon Dorloose in the draft. 6'3", 290 with good speed for his size. He's a defensive end and can play defensive tackle. Who does he play for, Derek? And good morning, Derek. Thanks for joining the Rock Down Syndicate. Black Mama 313 says, Will, you make a good point. He doesn't draft our needs. Yeah, I think everyone understands that about Brad now. He really goes after what he wants and who he feels. Look, if he didn't grab Jameer, Jack, Sam in this last draft, we had 4 impact players. We only needed 2. And he grabbed 4 because he goes against the grain. He travels his own road. Brad Holmes creates his own chessboard. And he wins every time. This guy has not lost yet. So I believe in it. I believe in his direction and what he's doing.
Tankathon got us taking Brandon at 61. So that's crazy. That's crazy if that does happen, Derek. 61 with our second round pick. So that would be something to see. Keep your eye out for that, I guess.
All right. The truth will never go voided. Says, make it make sense, bro. I agree with Derek. We need to go out there and get a stud defensive end in the free agency. And when you do that before us, and when do you do that before it's too late? It's a great question. You want to answer that?
You know what, man? I just think that Brad Holmes has a strategy. And last year was really when I got to see what kind of GM he was, because it was a couple things that he didn't do. He had never taken a linebacker higher than the 6th round. I'm sorry. Nope. Derek Barnes took him in the 4th. So he hadn't taken like a top 3 round draft linebacker. And we know that going into year number 2, I think it was, Will, our linebacker room was hideous. It was terrible, right? So we had like Chris Board and Chris Wood and all these other guys, these Chris's, right?
Pittman.
So he addressed it. And so I'm like, okay, all right. He took Jack Campbell out of nowhere, a 1st round linebacker. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Then we knew going into 2023, our secondary was the worst part of our team. What does he do? Just destroys it. You know, he can't help that Emmanuel Moseley got hurt. I mean, he signed a hurt player, but the injuries are not related to one another. So now I feel like you got the Brian Branch, right? You got Cam Sutton under contract. What you don't have is Emmanuel Moseley and CJ Gardner-Johnson. I'm going to make a prediction. Both of them guys come back. And that we go and we get I think Brad is laser focused on the defensive line. So to answer your question, bro, I think this is the year, and I think he does it. And I think it's going to be somebody that most likely won't be tagged, and I think it's going to be Daniil, because if you think about it, they got to pay Justin Jefferson. And Daniil Hunter's thing is the Detroit Lions going to look at his hold in as a grit guy? That's the one thing that would keep Daniil. I don't even think it's the money, Will. I think it's the hold out or the hold in. I don't know but like I said, I'm hearing St. Brown that he is saying, I'm not playing without this money. If he don't get extended, bro, by September, St. Brown won't be playing. So
yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that about St. Brown. Like,
he does seem like the swag has went up to you know what I'm saying? Like, I saw him at the Pro Bowl and he like, I'm not trying to be here next year. So I think that not a diva. I don't want to use that word because I love St. Brown. I love the fact that he internalized his frustration and became one of the top wide receivers in the game. But at the same time, Will, I see a change in him. I see a change in St. Brown, and I think he will hold out if he doesn't get paid.
You know, all right. So let's talk about that for a second, because that's what I'm all about, putting more guys in the funnel. That's why I'm all about making sure that you have somebody that you can trust that can back up your top guys. Because if St. Brown is allowing the success to get to his head, and if he's allowing the money to get to his head, or what potential money he's about to have get to his head, he's making a big mistake. Because we've seen it with other players where they do the same thing. They go down that road. I'm better than y'all. I've been better than y'all. I told you so. And then it comes back to bite them. They get injured and then they wash out. I'm not saying that's going to happen to St. Brown, but what I'm saying is, man, you've got to keep it locked in. You got to keep it laser focused. You're having great success. Yeah, a lot of people bet against you. So be humble about it, right? The Lions have put you in the position to win. They didn't have to. They put you in that position to win. Without the Lions taking a chance on you and putting you in as the number one wide receiver, you are not here today. You are on someone else's roster, fifth fiddle, working your way up. And who knows if you would ever have had the same type of trajectory that you did, or the same type of success that you did. You just don't know.
Well, it sounds like you got a little bass in your voice, man. It seemed like I hit a chord, bro.
Well, it's because this is what ticks me off about players that, you know, they just think they're God's gift to green earth. And look, man, you've got to just humble yourself and take, I hate to say it, you take the Tom Brady approach.
He's young though, man. He's like 22, 23 years old.
that's what derails careers is your youth. But I think that St. Brown is wise way beyond his years. I really do. He's an incredibly intelligent guy.
I think he holds out. I think he holds out, bro.
I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. But that's why, again, I think the Lions have to be prepared. If Brad Holmes is not from the mindset of I'm going to pay this guy $25 million, because I'll be honest, look, you guys can hate me all you want. I do not believe St. Brown is worth $25 million because of the position that he plays is really a slot receiver. Now, there's some slot receivers that have made that kind of money, but it derails their team. If you take the Tom Brady approach, would you rather win a Super Bowl or would you rather be the highest paid guy and never make the playoffs? Well, we've made the playoffs, so you can't say that. But if you want to be the highest paid guy and never make the playoffs and never go anywhere and never achieve the ultimate success, then go be the highest paid guy. But if you want to win Super Bowls, humble yourself, be all about the team, be the grit warrior that you talk about, right? Be a Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell guy and allow the team to have success, because you're already seen Jared Goff and Jared commercials. Why? Because his team's having success. He's going to make more money doing commercials than he ever will making $1 in the NFL. That's where Tom Brady's made his money.
I wonder how much Cure is paying him.
Maybe I should reach out to Cure Auto Insurance. They're not a sponsor.
Will.
But you know who is a sponsor is C3 Mitts. If you guys love hunting and enjoy getting out in the woods, you've got to check out c3mitts.com. They've got a great line of warming mitts for your hand that attaches to your firearm, your crossbow, your bow. If you don't want your hunt to end early out in the woods, don't let your hands get cold, and check out C3 Mitts today, c3mitts.com. Right now, they have a sale, buy any three mitts for $75. They're normally $59.95. Check it out at c3mitts.com. All right, so let's get to Jared Goff here.
Okay, Will, I'm sorry, bro. We gotta.
Yeah, I'm gotta respond to that. I'm sorry.
No. I don't want to respond to you. I'm seeing a lot of comments about whether or not he'll hold out, and I think you got to look at it from a player standpoint. I'm all about the team. I am about the team, and I respect the guys that put it on the line. The Jameson Williams plays in their bowl game. They don't have to do that. Jameson lost out on millions of dollars by doing that. So I understand that. I do understand, though, and I said after Calvin Johnson, after hearing what he had to go through, that I would never side with the NFL again. And I look at it like this. St. Brown is playing for his livelihood, right? If he is on the last year of his contract, he is earned millions upon millions of dollars. What will it be? Will it be 26? I don't know. If he gets hurt and it's a mean and vicious injury, he's going to lose out on all of that money that he worked for. So I think the question is, Will, not necessarily the extension, but how much it will be. And if he's in the $26 million market, because we're all assuming or based it off what the market value for him would be. So he's making chump change right now. So anything would be better than what he's making right now. But maybe St. Brown goes for 15, maybe goes for 12. I don't know what him and his camp want, but I think that I'm not saying I like holdouts, but I understand why you do it, because the risk of you getting injured is high. You know what I'm saying? It's 100% injury rate. And depending on how vicious the injury is, this is your livelihood, bro. So I'm not saying that I agree 100% with the holdout, but I do understand why he would do it. It's just a matter of he's going to be like, what, do I want 30 million? No. Do I want, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, we're giving you 17. He's like, nope, I want 26. Then that's when you start to kind of question the person. But I think he's earned the right to get a raise. Whether or not he plays, that's up to him, because it's his body. So I'm going to side with St. Brown, bro, because I've seen what the NFL did to Calvin Johnson, what the Detroit Lions did to Calvin Johnson, and I said I would never side with them again. So I'm going to go pay the man. It's just a matter of what he gets.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone knows me well enough to understand that I love St. Brown. I wouldn't rock his jersey, for no reason.
How much you paying him? How much you paying him?
You've got to pay the guy to keep him. But the thing is I really don't. I'd have to go and compare all of the slot receivers, top 10 top 5 slot receivers in the top 5, number 1 receivers. Put it this way. Are you going to pay him as much as a Justin Jefferson? Because that's what it's turning out to be. Justin Jefferson money. Would you rather have a Justin Jefferson type body, and someone that can go up and get it? Now, St. Brown has been very healthy. Like he is a dog when it comes to, he wants to play. He's going to play injured or hurt. He won't play injured, obviously, but he fights through it all. So I love his tenacity. I love his heart. I love his grit. I love everything about the guy. I really do. I just think that Brad Holmes is a businessman. He's going to make business decisions, and they may not always align. And that's why Brad Holmes at the press conference to end the season said, you're not going to like some things that are coming. There's going to be some things that are going to shock you guys. Don't read into all the hype. Don't read in, he also said that too. Don't read into all of this entertainment news out there. I don't know, man. I look, I think he's got to get paid because he deserves it. I will say the St. Brown deserves a contract. He does. He deserves a much better contract. But for him to say I'm poor, making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, he ain't poor.
Cooper Kupp, 3-year deal, $80 million.
That's St. Brown. That's a ton of money. I
think he's earned it. I think he's earned it. I don't think I know what you're saying, position versus, no, he's not a Justin Jefferson. He's not a 50-50 ball guy, but I'm looking at production. I'm looking at the fact that when St. Brown is not in the game, it is noticeably different. And you could be right because we don't have that Marvin Harrison Jr. We don't have anywhere else to go. But at the same time, no matter where St. Brown is, you got it. He's not a deep guy. Okay, facts. But we don't need him to be. We don't need him to be. He's everything else. So for me, he's definitely Cooper Kupp money for sure. So I'm paying him. If he wants 26, I'm giving him 26. You got to pay you got to pay to keep teams good. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, and you get that stud rookie, you get that Marvin Harrison guy on
You're gonna have to.
You know what I'm saying?
You're going to have to. So let's look at this one for just a moment. Then we'll go to Goff.
Okay.
Tyreek Hill, $30 million a year. He's not Tyreek speed.
No.
Devontae Adams, $28 million a year. 32 years old. Cooper Kupp, 31, $26.7 million. AJ Brown, 27, $25 million. Stephon Diggs, 31, $24 million. DK Metcalf, which to me, that's your prototypical type receiver, right? That's what I want to see is that, Calvin Johnson size come back to this team. 27 years old, $24 million a year. So when I look at the top contracts, and you've got a mix here of, slots and, WR1s, I would say that he's going to end up somewhere between an Amari Cooper at 20 mil and a Stephon Diggs at 24 mil. I think that I would comfortably pay him between those numbers, but it's going to have to be super friendly, in the beginning, because how are you going to re-sign the rest of your guys? And how are you going to re-sign Jameson Williams when he deserves a contract? Let's say he explodes next year. Let's say he explodes.
He's on year 3. You still got year 4.
But St. Brown is coming up into year 4, right?
Right.
So you usually do it the year before, if not 2 years before. But let's say Jameson Williams explodes next year and the year after, and then he's due a contract. And you've got St. Brown at $25 million a year, roughly. Let's call it $25 million. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to have to re-sign J-Mo, who's going to want $25 million if he really does explode. How are you going to pay them both? You can't. So that's where roster roulette comes into play. You're going to have to drop another wide receiver in the bucket. That's why I thought that Marvin Harrison made the most sense if the Lions are to move up this year, or any other receiver. That means that St. Brown is always going to be our number 1. And the rest of the guys are just going to be there.
But he's giving us number 1 numbers. So does it really matter? Like, the dude put up 15-15, like, as a slot dude. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm like, okay, right now you've got, let's say you extend St. Brown and you make it, I'm guessing 3 years, right? So it'll be a total of 4 he'll have on this team. 3 years. Cooper Kupp, that's perfect right there. 3 years. By the time he's now in year He'll have 2 years left on his deal. Now you got to, right now, Jameson Williams, like you said, if he explodes, that's a big if, bro. Like, real talk. J-Mo got a long way to go before he gets, right, any type of, I would love to see what his market value is right now. But I hear what you're saying. But in order to keep the dude he got the numbers, man. He might not have the size or the speed, but he's got all the production in the world, and you gotta pay him, bro. So I say that they pay him, man. He gets a Cooper Kupp contract.
So here's where I'm at with it.
It's like,
you're right. He produces, but we need a boundary guy, right? He's inside the hashes. We need a boundary guy, and we need a corner threat type of guy. That's what DPJ I thought was going to end up being for us. Mm-hmm. We'll see if he comes back next year. Here's where I'm at. You got to throw St. Brown a bone this year, extend him 1 year, give him 20 mil. Yep. 1 year, 20 mil. And that way he's got 2 more years with us. And that way his AAV is only 10 million. Extend him just 1 year. You're throwing him a bone saying, look, we love you, but we've got other guys that we have to sign too. Let's guarantee you a big payday. And then we'll revisit this next year.
Why would he do that though, Will?
He probably wouldn't. But you're giving him that 1 extra year, or you just renegotiate his contract where he's inside his 4 years still, and you just give him a bigger payday. You don't fully extend him yet at 25 million. I've seen it done before. So you may not extend him. You may extend him within his own contract by giving him a big bump in his pay, but not necessarily extending him for 4 years at 25 or 3 years at 25 million. It makes perfect cap sense, but you may lose the player in a year.
And why would you? Okay, I got you, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's tough. That's tough. The guy.
That's why being a GM is a special position.
That's facts.
So right, let's talk about Goff. And just so everybody knows, clear the air. I do love St. Brown. I love his work ethic. I love everybody about, everything about him. But these are the hard conversations. And we're going to try to give you really good, solid opinions based on facts and all the information out there. All right. So I keep hearing this stuff about Goff and Hooker. Is there anybody in the chat right now that believes that Hendon Hooker is going to be traded for, more draft picks in 2024? Does anybody really believe that we are going to trade our only backup, knowing that we don't have Bridgewater, who's retired? He's not coming back. There is not one backup in the NFL right now that I would want differently than Hendon Hooker. He is somebody that could take over this offense if Goff goes down. And you're going to want somebody that's really good at the backup position, because let's say we get into a position next year where we've got 10 wins and it's week 13 and Goff goes down for 3 games. Well, that could make the difference of you making it into the playoffs or not. If the rest of your division is playing well, or the rest of the league is playing well, it could have seeding implications. It could have a lot of implications. And I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you don't want to lose the ability to have somebody win you a couple of games if your star quarterback goes down. That's why you do not get rid of Hendon Hooker. He's not worth anything. You brought him in on a 3rd round draft pick. He hasn't played a snap in the NFL. Please tell me, what is he worth? He's worth this. Nothing. You would be lucky to get a 3rd round draft pick, more like a 5th. You're not going to get what you paid for him. He hasn't played a snap. So I can't believe that I keep hearing that you guys would want to trade Hendon Hooker. Not you guys all personally, but you guys out there in YouTube world, that you would want to trade Hendon Hooker. You're probably the same people that said that Hendon Hooker was going to take Jared Goff's job. So I'm really confused by this. Be that as it may, Goff is our quarterback. He's going to be sticking around, may or may not get extended this year. There's an argument to be made there. I believe he will be. I said it last year that he would be, but there's an argument as to when you do it. So, Derek, what do you got to say on the Hendon Hooker drama that people want to trade him?
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. I have nothing else to say. That makes 0 sense. There's no need to elaborate on something dumb. That's just dumb. So I don't know what, and I think that's why we exist, Will. I think that's for everybody talking about, my takes and all that. And you keep your receipts. I mean, that's dumb. And I think YouTube needs guidance. And I think that's why we're here. That is just stupid. So
Yeah.
that's all I got to say about that.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. But let's talk about Goff. I mean, he's earned the right to earn a top contract, and that's the second bit of drama that I keep hearing. Who in the right mind honestly thinks that Jared Goff is going to take a contract at $35 million? I keep hearing this too, that he's going to sign a team friendly deal at $35 million. Look, he's not going to do that. There's no way that his agent is going to allow that. It's not up to Goff. It's up to his agent. Goff has some say, but about this much. So he might make it a little bit team friendly with how they structure the contract. But let me throw a couple of scenarios at you. I did a full roster live with you guys last week, and I extended Goff, Penei Sewell, St. Brown. I got all the big guys taken care of. I brought in AJ Epinesa. I think that I restructured Tracy Walker, brought back CJ Gardner. I did the whole bit, and I was down to $4 million left in cap space. Now I probably could have found another 10, 12, 15 million to sign the rookie class. So it can be done. But when you extend Goff, you will have an opportunity to make his cap very small this year, like 30 million, 25 million. There's an opportunity to do that. So extending Goff this year is not going to hurt our ability to sign players. And quite honestly, when the cap goes up over the next couple of years, his percentage is going to stay roughly the same, which is not going to impact this team. Goff is going to probably be worth no less than 45 million a year on average. No less than. The average quarterback salary for the top 5, even if you were to look at the top 10, I want to say is about 42.5 million. I could be wrong, but Derek, give me your thoughts while I pull that up.
So you're saying that 35 is too little for Goff, right?
Oh, there's no way he takes that.
Yeah. I don't think that. I mean, what is he making this year?
32-ish.
Yeah. There's no, in my opinion, Goff is going to make about 45. That's what I think. No less than 45 million. Maybe 42-ish, somewhere around there. But I think he makes in the 40s for, yeah, I think. And
you're talking average over the extension.
Yep. It's 40 plus. That's what I think.
Yeah. So 40 plus is the floor, right? So let's look at the top 10. Matter of fact, let me share it because I don't want you guys to think that I'm just full of crap. Let me get it up here.
I think, who's at the top now? Herbert or Burrow?
Burrow,
Herbert.
Anyway, according to OTC.
Yeah, it's probably right.
All right, let me fix this.
I hate their layout, man. It's so dingy looking.
I just don't like all the ads that pop up.
I'm with you.
Okay, so here we go. You got your top 10. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but Joe Burrow, 55 million a year. Justin Herbert, 52.5. Lamar Jackson, 52. Jalen Hurts, 51. I would assume that a lot of people would say, well, he's not worth more than them. I would argue that he's worth equal to them.
Yep.
Russell Wilson, I think he's worth more than Russell Wilson at 49. Kyler Murray, I think he's worth more than Kyler Murray at 46. Deshaun Watson, biggest bust ever, stupidest contract I've ever seen, definitely worth more than him. Patrick Mahomes, 45 million. Josh Allen, 43. Matt Stafford, 40. Dak Prescott, 40. Daniel Jones, 40. This is the floor.
Yep.
40 million is going to be the floor. What was your question, Derek? You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, he's like, I agree with you that the floor is 40.
So let's talk about what he should get. I've been out there saying, a 3-year extension would probably be the minimum that will happen. And when you look at a 3-year extension, I want to say I put the number out there that it was like 180 all in. I'm sorry. So 180 divided by 4 is 45 million. And so AAV, right? Your average annual value at $45 million a year. What would that look like? I think one, he would probably get on average about 70% guarantee. And the reason why I say that is if you take these numbers over here, you got 275 total on Joe Burrow, 146 fully guaranteed. That's 53% of his contract guaranteed. On a smaller deal, I think that Jared's going to get more guaranteed. Justin Herbert, that's about 50%. Lamar Jackson, he's got 135 guaranteed out of 260. That's 52%. Jalen Hurts, he didn't get much guaranteed at all compared to his contract. Russell Wilson's about 50%. Kyler Murray is about 40%. Deshaun Watson, 100%. Crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Patrick Mahomes, man, he only took $63 million fully guaranteed. 63
out of that $500 million. That's crazy, bro.
Right. That's the kind of player that wants to win Super Bowls.
Yeah. He making
so he's gonna make his money. So everything is built in, so that he's got to earn it. Right. I think that if they give him a very low extension, meaning, 2-3 years, he's going to get a higher guarantee at 70%. Otherwise, I think his guarantee is probably going to be around 55, 58%. He'll be a little bit more than the rest of the guys, but maybe not as much money. And I think that's the game you play. So you guys saw it. You saw the contracts. How do you think that Jared Goff is going to make less than a top 10 contract? He's not. So $45 million is about your average right now. Anywhere between 40 to 55 million is between a top 12 contract and the number one contract overall. I put him smack dab in the middle, which would be Kyler Murray money. 46 million, I think, is where Jared Goff is probably going to land. 45, 46 million. And it's not going to hurt us. If the cap is going up 25 million and your quarterback's contract is going up 15 million, you're still net 10 million. That you're still able to add a dominant player somewhere. And then you got a lot of, what's that?
He's done more than the outside of the top four. I think it stopped at 4, maybe 5. Jared Goff, if you look at where we ended up and what he's done over the last 3 years, he probably should be right in the middle, like top 5, top 6. I mean, if you want to, the Lions fan base would lose their mind if Jared Goff is getting paid $50 million. They would crap the bed, bro, 110%. So this is going to be something. I got to go. Will, I got to bounce, man.
Okay.
But it was been a great show. This is going to be something. We'll be back on Thursday. And don't forget to subscribe to Rocked On Syndicate, because we're going to be going exclusive over there sometime in the near future. But it's been real. I got a job to do, man. And I will see you guys next time.
All right, Derek. Thank you for coming on. Have a good morning.
You too, bro.
All right. Well, I'll be wrapping it up here shortly, too. So we'll finish talking about Jared for just a moment. At the end of the day, look, he's going to get paid about $50 million when you look at it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does get paid $50 million. I know you think that I'm kind of going back and forth here, but I would not be shocked and I would not be worried if he gets paid $50 million. I put out a video 3 months ago calling him, the $50 million arm. And when you look at what he's done over the last few seasons, or at least, matter of fact, if you go back and look what he's done since he's been in the league, he is a top 3 quarterback in playoff appearances, playoff wins, and Super Bowl appearances. The only ones that are better, clearly, Patrick Mahomes. And I believe it was Joe Burrow that was second to Mahomes. But Joe's kind of fallen off fast now the last couple of seasons. But he is, and I think Josh Allen is up there too. But Jared Goff is a top 3-4 quarterback in the league since he's been in the league, with playoff appearances, playoff wins, and stats. Top 5. So you've got to pay him that way. And quarterback's a little bit different than positional players. You can't win without a great quarterback. You can win with better than average receivers and running backs. That's just the name of the game. You've seen Aaron Rodgers do it for years. You've seen Tom Brady do it for years. You don't have to always have the best of the best. You've seen Patrick Mahomes do it this year. He doesn't have a great cast of wide receivers, still pulled it off with a good tight end. Jared Goff just has the ability to go out there and win games with a great cast of players. He's really lucky to have what he has, and that's exactly why the Lions are going to keep him. Yeah, Black Mamba 313, it was just the name of the video, the $50 million arm or the $50 million man. Now, I'm going to change up the script on you for just a moment. What if Brad Holmes decides to use Jared Goff as trade bait? Now, I've heard Hendon Hooker. I don't think that happens. But you would be surprised at how much he's worth right now on the open market. I'll leave you guys with this today to think about something for the next show. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm not saying I want this to happen. But I put together a scenario that Goff was traded from the Rams to the Lions. The Lions gained a couple of draft picks, 2 firsts and a third, and Jared Goff. The Lions have had the best 3 seasons, well, best 2 seasons really, that they've had in a very long time. Best season this year that they've had in 30 plus years. How much do you think Jared Goff is worth right now to a quarterback needy team? Probably 2 firsts and a third. Do you think that Brad Holmes for 1 minute wouldn't love to add 2 more first round picks and a third by trading Goff, and then Hendon Hooker slides in, and then the Lions jump up in the draft and, grab another quarterback? Remember, Brad Holmes said that there's going to be some things that you don't like this year, that there's going to be some things that are going to shock you, but to stay steadfast in the belief in where this team is going. The reason why I don't think that would happen this year is because I believe the Lions are going all in to try to get back to the Super Bowl, and they don't want to, really upset the apple cart. If you throw a new quarterback into the mix right now, I don't think that there's even a chance that happens. Black Mamba 313 says, don't trade Goff, but don't overpay him either. I don't think you're overpaying him. I really don't. I don't think you're overpaying him at $45 million average per year. You're not. He signed one of the bigger contracts back in 2019, which gave him an AAV, I think, of like $35 million a year. That was one of the bigger contracts that year, extensions. Right now, is Joe Burrow worth more than Jared Goff? Is he winning more than Jared Goff? No. Is Justin Herbert winning more than Jared Goff? No. Lamar Jackson? Let's talk about it. Lamar Jackson got just as far as Jared Goff this year. Jalen Hurts, he bowed out early, made it to the Super Bowl the year before. Russell Wilson, he's definitely not worth more than Goff. $49 million a year. Kyler Murray's hot trash. Deshaun Watson, like I said, the biggest joke of a contract I've ever seen. Josh Allen. Look, Josh Allen is a very respectable quarterback in the league. And I believe that he's worth all of that $43 million. He needs a few more pieces. But the Buffalo Bills are doing just fine. They're able to bring in big-time players. And they're able to pay their quarterback at the same time. Matt Stafford, $40 million. The Rams are able to do what they're able to do. So it's not overpaying them. If you can pay Ryan Tannehill $30 million, I think that Jared Goff is worth a lot more than that. There's only a few $1 million separating Ryan Tannehill and Jared Goff right now. So I think that he's worth a lot more. All right, y'all. As Derek said, we appreciate you guys joining the Rocked On Syndicate. And don't forget to check out C3 Mitts at c3mitts.com. Great lineup, like I said, of hunting gloves for your firearm, crossbow, or your bow. And then don't forget also, go check out sportspider.com. It's an amazing website. They list all of the different sports teams. You can find podcasts. You can find articles. Derek and I are listed underneath videos and podcasts, I believe, but videos for sure. So you can take in our content over there. Do us a favor. Head over to Sport Spider, and that's SportSpyder.com, Sport Spider. Go check it out. Click on our links and show Sport Spider that you found them because of us. So that's all for Rocked On Syndicate today in the Rise and Grind Morning Show. You guys have been awesome this morning. We appreciate all of the comments in the chat, and we'll be back on Thursday, 8:30, right here on Rock Down Syndicate. So we'll see y'all later. Enjoy your morning. Goodbye.